Good morning, my dear students of class 10. As you know that I have started to discuss the chapter Management of Natural Resources. Today I will discuss about the water harvesting system and dams. Okay. So in my previous classes I have discussed up to the what is the need about the water and a special system which can be found in the Himachal Pradesh, which is Khools. Okay. So up to Khools and Himachal Pradesh I have discussed, and today I will discuss about dams. What is dam? What is the use of these dams, and what are the problems that can be faced while we are constructing a dam. Okay. So first we have to know what is dam. So dam is a barrier constructed area across the streams to hold back the water. So it is a barrier constructed area to hold the water. Okay. Just a minute. Okay. So I am repeating what is dam. It is a dams are barrier constructed area across the streams to hold back the water. Okay. And why we want to hold the water? Because if we store the water by building a dams during the when the water is available, that means during the rainy season. So when the water is not available, that time we can use the water. Okay. So what are the different uses? That means a canal system leading from these dams will carry large amount of water, okay, to different parts where the water is needed for different purpose. So that is the main that is the way by dams can be constructed. Okay. So usually large dams can ensure the storage of adequate amount of water, and not just for irrigation but also for generating electricity. We can generate electricity with the help of this stored water. Okay. And dams can transfer a large amount of water great distances. For example, the Indira Gandhi Canal has brought greenery to considerable areas of Rajasthan. Okay, so this is a very good example of the dam. However, mismanagement of the water has largely led to the benefits being concerned by a few people. And there is no equitable distribution of water. Thus people close to the source grow water intensive crops like sugarcane and rice, while people further downstream do not get any water. The woes of the people who have been promised benefits which never arrived are added to the discontentment among the people who have been displaced by building of the dam and its canal network. So what is the dam? It is a large barrier constructed area where water can be stored when the water is available, and then from this water we can distribute this water by the canals where the water is needed for different purpose. This was the main aim. But in some areas, the places which are near the dam, they are getting appropriate amount of water, but who are living far from the dam, they are not getting the appropriate amount of water. Okay. And some people were displaced for the construction of the large dams. In India you can find different types of large dams. You will get to know different examples. Okay. So in the previous part we have seen that there are some movement was there. So another was there that for the opposition to the construction of large dams such as Tehri Dam on the Ganga river. Okay. So that movement was the Narmada Bachao Andolon or Save the Narmada movement. There was another movement. What is that? Save the Narmada movement or Narmada Bachao Andolon. Okay, about raising the height of the Sardar Sarovar Dam on the river Narmada. That was the reason about the raising the height of the Sardar Sarovar Dam on the river Narmada. Okay, and now what are the problems? There are many problems we can face while constructing a large dam. What type of problems we should face? Social problems, economic problems and environmental problems. So what are the problems? These are the main problems that has been faced while constructing the large size dams. So first one was the social problems. Okay, social problems because they displace large number of people and tribals or the some persons who are living in that particular area without adequate compensation or or rehabilitation. Okay, so that is the main problem, that is a large number of tribals and other villagers were displaced, but they are not compensated and their proper rehabilitation measures was not made. Okay, so that was the main social problem. When they were constructing the large dams, they have promised to do, but they didn't actually do it. Okay, next problem is economical problems. So under the economical problem we can say that they swallow up huge amounts of public money without the generation of proportionate benefits. Okay, so a huge amount running into thousands of crores is spent on building large dams and they do not generate proportionate benefits. Okay, so they are consuming within themselves the huge amount of money and we are not getting the proper benefit for whatever they have promised. Okay, so that comes under economical problems. And the last one is environmental problems. That means environmental problems because they contribute enormously to deforestation and the loss of biological diversity. As you know that for constructing large dams we need a large sized area, so those the some ecological balance was there. Okay, so if we destroy this place, we have to cut many trees of this particular place, so deforestation will be there and the biological diversity, loss of biological diversity will be there. Okay, so these were the main problems regarding to the dams. Okay, and the people who have been displaced by various development projects are largely poor tribals. Okay, who do not get any benefits from these projects. Actually, the poor people are sacrificing their houses and everything and ultimately they are not getting any benefit and are alienated from their lands and forest without adequate compensation. Okay, they are not compensated for this. Okay, so the sorry. So this is the dams and the use and some problems of dams. Okay, so next part is that water harvesting system. So what is next part I want to discuss about the water harvesting. So what is water harvesting? That it is a capturing, collection and storage of rainwater and surface runoff for filling either small water bodies or recharging the groundwater. Okay, so that is called as water harvesting system. So what are the benefits of this system? It ensures water availability in non-rainy season. That means when the rainy season is not there, that time water availability will not be sufficient. So by this water harvesting system, we can supply water. Okay, and it reduces the chances of flooding during the rainy season, and water becomes available for drinking, irrigation throughout the year, and groundwater will be available by this process. Okay, so that is called as water harvesting system. It is a age old concept in India, and it is a we can call it that mega project. And okay, so the main aim is to develop primary resources of land and water to produce secondary resources of plants and animals for use in a manner which will not cause ecological imbalance. We should focus on the ecological balance. We should maintain the ecological balance always. Okay, so we will do this water harvesting system like a way, so we will not destroy the ecological balance. Okay, so water harvesting, as I have mentioned, that it is an age old concept in India. Khadins, tanks and nadis in Rajasthan, and tals in Maharashtra, bundis in Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh, ahats and pines in Bihar, pools in Himachal Pradesh, ponds in Kandi belt of Jammu region, and eris or tanks in Tamil Nadu, Suryanagams in Kerala, Kattas in Karnataka. These are some of the ancient water harvesting system. Okay, so these are the some example. You will be able to find all the names in your NCERT book. Okay, so these are the some examples of different water harvesting system, and in your book you will find a traditional water harvesting system. It is provided with a diagram, an ideal setting of the Khadin system. So let me show you. So this is the diagram. You will get it in the page number 276. It will be better if you see this diagram from the book. Okay, so this is a Khadin system. You will find how this system is developed and how this water can be harvested. Okay, so next part is, so I will suggest to everyone to check the Khadin system, and if you face any problem, please let me know in my next class. Okay, and the last important part of this chapter is, that is coal and petroleum, that is fossil fuels. How fossil fuels are formed and what are the different uses of these fossil fuels. So next and last topic of this chapter is coal and petroleum. Okay, so as I have mentioned that there are different type of natural resources, and fossil fuels is a great natural resources, and it is a non-renewable natural resource. So we should use this natural resource in a particular way, so that we can keep it available for our future generations. Okay, so first you have to know that how coal and petroleum has been formed. Okay, so this coal and petroleum were formed from the degradation of biomass millions of years ago. Okay, and hence these are resources that will be exhausted in the future, no matter how carefully we use them. Okay, as I have mentioned it, so if we don't use carefully, so it will be exhausted very soon, because it takes many times of many years to form, and if we finish it, then we would need to look for alternative sources of energy. Okay, So we have to use these natural resources very wisely, right? As you know that this takes many times to form. Okay. So and as you know that in alternative of coal and petroleum, we are looking for many other ways by which we can get the we can use them so that we can restore some amount of coal and petroleum for our future use. Okay. And as you know that coal and petroleum have been formed from biomass. In addition to carbon, these contain hydrogen, nitrogen and sulfur. So what it contains? In addition to carbon, it contains hydrogen, nitrogen and sulfur. And when these are burned, the products are carbon dioxide, water, oxides of nitrogen and oxides of sulfur. So when it is been burned, what products we can find? Oxides of nitrate, oxides of sulfur and oxides of nitrogen and oxides of sulfur and water and carbon dioxide. And when combustion takes place in insufficient air, then carbon monoxide is formed instead of carbon dioxide. Okay. So these are two important parts. So of these products, the oxides of sulfur and nitrogen and carbon monoxide are highly poisonous. Highly poisonous, and if their concentration goes high, then it may be fatal. Okay. And this carbon dioxide is considered as greenhouse gas. Okay. That another way for looking at coal and petroleum is that they are huge reservoirs of carbon, and if all of this carbon is converted to carbon dioxide, then the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is going to increase and it will lead to global warming. Okay, you know what is global warming? So it will increase the temperature of the earth, okay, which is not good for us. So we have to stop the burning of the coal and petroleum so that we can stop the overproduction of carbon dioxide. And why? Because carbon dioxide may lead to the global warming. Okay. So that is the coal and petroleum, and this by taking many years this coal and petroleum has been formed. So this has been formed mainly in the Carboniferous period, that means trees and plants died and sank to the bottom of the oceans and formed layer of spongy material called peat, and peat covered with sand and clay, and peat squeezed, released water and then formed coal or bio oil or gas. Okay, so this is the process by which coal has been formed. So that is all about coal and petroleum. And the last part is that sustainable management. Sustainable management. So what is the meaning of this term sustainable management? So management of natural resources in such a way that basic need or dependency from those resources is met. Okay, and our future generation also can make use of them, and use of those resources do not cause too much of harm to the environment. These are the main points which comes under sustainable management, that is called as sustainable management. Okay. So what we have to do? We have to follow something, that is we have to make ultimately what we have to do, we have to protect our environment, right? So over consumption of these coal and petroleum and many other substances which may cause harm to the environment, we have to stop the uses of them. So we have to make some simple choices that can make some differences in our energy consumption patterns. Okay. So these are having some advantages and disadvantages both. Okay. But we have to try at least to become to do something which is environmental friendly. So what we have to do, instead of using personal car or personal vehicle, we can take bus, right? So in a personal car only one or two students can come to the school, but in a private bus many people can come. So we can conserve some sort of energy by using, instead of so many personal cars, by using a private bus, right? So first point is that taking a bus using your personal taking a bus instead of using a personal vehicle, or walking, or you can come to school if it is very near. It is a but you can come by walk also, or by cycling. Okay, so this is the one way. And another one is that using bulbs or fluorescent tubes in your homes, right? Third one is using the check that using the lift or taking the stairs. What you will do? Using, you will, okay, just check that solar power, you can use the solar power, right? So instead of using the lift, we can use the stairs whenever you are going to the first floor or second floor. If you are going to the 20th floor, then it is okay, you should use the stairs, but whenever you are moving to the first or second floor, you can use the stairs. It will with the help of that, exercise will be done by you. Okay, that will be very good for your health also. So you can conserve your some sort of energy, and your exercise part will be done also. So you will, I would suggest that you should use the stairs instead of lift. Okay, and that you can at the cold winter, instead of using heaters at your home, you can use extra sweaters. So energy will not be needed for the sweaters, but it will be needed for the heater. So there are different ways, okay, different ways by which you can conserve energy and you protect the environment. Okay, so I have given some sort of examples, and by this you can reduce the air pollution also. Okay, so release of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide will be less, and the environment will be protected. Okay, so that is all about the management of natural resources, and that is the main concept of this chapter. So today I am completing the chapter management of natural resources. And as you know that this chapter will not come in your board exam assessment, or something else I will provide you to, you have to do it. Okay, so in my next class I will start with the new chapter. Okay, so for today that's it. Thank you and bye bye.